I used to think it was something wrong with me.
Like many women do.
Yeah, like I thought that I was broken because I didn't have orgasms and I didn't know what was going on with my body. And I just chalked it up to maybe there's a lot of sexual trauma that has happened within my womb based on the times that I said yes when I really wanted to say no with ex-mates that I was in relationships with. And, you know, that can really, it's a lot of self-betrayal when women have sex and it's having sex with people who don't love them, honor them, or have betrayed them. So I just chalked it up to more womb work that I had to do. And then at some point, I had to be honest with myself and acknowledge I actually don't know almost anything about my body.
Right.
And so, how does a woman climax? How does a woman have an orgasm? And
Consistently.
Consistently or in general.
I'm just going to give the official numbers and we'll go right back. So what I got from the AI overview, about 45% of women regularly experience orgasm. And then for men, that's about 70 to 85%. So you already got a gap just right there. And then while roughly 90% of women can achieve orgasm through some form of stimulation, this is the kicker, only about 8 to 20% of women consistently orgasm from intercourse alone. Mm-hmm. My nigga, everything is love, but that on anything I love. Yeah.
Peace, beloved.
It be that you wouldn't expect to win, that stay playing in their deck over and again. R.I.P. the Prodigy, man.
Remnants of last night still running through.
I'm letting y'all know right now.
We both delirious.
Before the introduction even come, it's loopy in these streets. It's loopy in this household. We was up all yesterday, all hours of last night, being grown. We was constructive though. In the beginning of the day, we filmed some podcast episodes for y'all.
That's true.
And then we rode around Houston, about 8 different stops. Y'all know how that is in Houston. And then I was like, yeah, I think I'm tired, but I still want some. And normally, if I'm...
You still want what?
I still wanted some.
Some what?
Man, please. I can't curse yet. We ain't more than 5 minutes out. But normally, if I know we both tired, that's not a... I usually make a decision to acknowledge our energy quotient before we go to that space, but she fresh off Little Red Riding Hood. She been wearing these little, I don't even know what kind of shorts to call. What are those? Are those drawers?
No. They're like boy shorts.
Yeah. She been prancing around in these boy shorts, so tired and all. Things had to be handled.
That's a fact.
Am I getting carried away?
I mean,
going a little left?
True. We trying to give people the gems that will get them here.
Okay. All right. With that being said, you can go ahead and introduce things.
What's up, y'all? We have another episode of Goddess Me Again.
I was about to say tonight's conversation.
Me too. That's why I had to look at you.
Yes, we back. Goddess Me Again. Not Take They Mics, not tonight's conversation. Goddess Me Again podcast.
I'm Candyss Love.
I'm your boy Brickcitibuddha. I'm her
husband.
And she's my
wife.
Right, for those of y'all that don't know.
Yeah. All right. So what are we talking about today?
How you feeling, Slim?
Man, I feel delirious.
Mm-hmm. Disoriented
for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel well loved. And yeah.
And you got your 3rd ring yesterday.
Yeah.
You want to go there?
Do you want to go there?
Why not?
Listen, I'm on whatever you on.
it's semi correlated to the topic, I believe.
Okay.
And the topic today, what did I have written down? I think we was talking, or we are about to talk about.
What you got in your thing? Is that water?
Yeah, I got ice cold water. I don't know what's going on with yours.
Oh wait, we can't have some. I'm really thirsty.
See, that's why what happened last night happened. Her talking
Why?
like that. But yeah, today don't show they ain't paying us no money. Today's topic we're gonna talk about. He played in my face. This is a term. Golly.
I said I was
You was laughing like
thirsty.
Cleo. I ain't never heard you drink like that. Sheesh, double fisted and all. Jealous. Anyway, yeah, today's topic is he played in my face. You know, that's a popular verbiage, as Candyss would say, but a popular verbiage amongst women who tend to lack some level of clarity and accountability in the fact that your choices are your choices. I know it's a lot of F-boys out here and unsafe individuals in the masculine kingdom. We get all of that, but it still boils down to, unless something was forced upon you, boils down to our choices, right? But I think this actually does correlate, and I guess I got to go ahead and just be vulnerable as a man. We have multiple conversations about all aspects of how we could be better for each other. And this wasn't even something that you brought up, like, I need you to be better. It was just random conversation, which sparked questions in my mind. And we got into the topic of difficulties and challenges, with you being able to climax as easily as you used to. You remember?
Okay.
Right. Which led to your third ring. The ring, you got it in here? He was wearing it all day like it's an extra wedding ring. We got her a rose ring, y'all. And I didn't even realize till we got home. It's just on her finger. Like, yo, people are going to know what that is. It's like a little pink rose that you could like put on your finger
Yeah,
and
I had
use in the
just
ring
got
form.
it.
Yeah, she had just got it. But those type of conversations is stuff that could break people. Break couples if they haven't properly investigated each other before they even get to that space, properly vetted each other out. We know each other's true north, though. So we know no matter how uncomfortable the conversation may be, no matter how potentially damaging that conversation could have been to my ego, and it wasn't, because as you explained everything, life's, the feminine system, going through all type of shifts and changes all the time. I don't think I'm perfect. I know I always got areas where I can improve and across the board. So when you confided, I was just glad you confided in me and let me know the challenges you was having, what we could do to get back to that space of climax and all that different stuff. But had I not been the individual that you know me to be, that could have been something that, even if I acquiesced to the conversation behind closed doors in my heart, I could have already been losing confidence. I could have already been breaking down as a man and disconnecting and detaching from you, and already having my eye looking somewhere else, because if I ain't making you happy, then what I'm here for? You know what I'm saying? And that all comes down to investigation. So a lot of today's topic, and if you want to chime into that particular piece, but today's topic is about how people can be better at investigating and vetting and realizing the person's true north before you get to some of these uncomfortable conversations 5-10 years down the line, and that one conversation or that one instance breaks y'all, and now y'all got all this fallout to take care of.
Yeah. I think for me, it that conversation was really important. One, because I've never been able to have a conversation like that with anybody, and you are the first person that I ever had an orgasm with. But I think it's very important for me to say that this wasn't me advocating to bring something like a rose in the bedroom. It's not based on how your inability to make me orgasm, because that's not the case. Like, we have perfect sex. But what I recognize is, as a woman, I don't know anything about my body.
Right.
And so what I had to learn, because before you and I were together, knew each other, got married, I used to think it was something wrong with me.
Like many women do.
Yeah, like I thought that I was broken because I didn't have orgasms and I didn't know what was going on with my body. And I just chalked it up to maybe there's a lot of sexual trauma that has happened within my womb based on the times that I said yes when I really wanted to say no with ex-mates that I was in relationships with. And, you know, that can really, it's a lot of self-betrayal when women have sex and it's having sex with people who don't love them, honor them, or have betrayed them. So I just chalked it up to more womb work that I had to do. And then at some point I had to be honest with myself and acknowledge I actually don't know almost anything about my body. Right. And so how does a woman climax? How does a woman have an orgasm? And consistently or in general. And when I looked it up, it said that the average person does not orgasm without clitoral stimulus on top of the male entering the vagina.
I'm coming right back to you. I'm just going to give the official numbers and we'll go right back. So what I got from the AI overview, about 45% of women regularly experience orgasm. And then for men, that's about 70 to 85%. So you already got a gap just right there. And then while roughly 90% of women can achieve orgasm through some form of stimulation, this is the kicker, only about 8 to 20% of women consistently orgasm from intercourse alone. Back to you.
And that was my thing. Based on women most likely not being able to orgasm through intercourse alone. Our parents just did not teach us how to orgasm or climax. Most of the conversations were either this is what you do when you're on your cycle or this is what you do to make sure you don't have kids. So now that I'm married and I'm like, hey, I want to climax too. And I'm recognizing the moments where I did climax with you was moments where, you know, we in St. John's, you know, we outside, we by the pool, we in the mountains.
We on somebody's balcony.
On the balcony.
You know y'all love y'all balconies.
Yeah, we having a good time. But as life happens and there may be more stress happening in the body and things that I just can't account for because I'm still learning my body, it's like, well, let me just bring it up. You know, let me ask if that's something that you're comfortable with because even I still don't know if that'll work because I don't know anything about my body. I've never explored that part of myself before. And so I thought it was important to see if we could explore together. And I was really glad because I know in some relationships, a lot of couples are openly fluent in how they bring toys into the bedroom and how, you know, some men can't wait to give a vibrator to their girl. And then in other relationships, that's just not how y'all operate because the sex is probably just great. And for us, our sex is just great. So it really wasn't anything that I felt necessary to bring up until it crossed my mind. Hey, I'm learning something new about my body. Right. Let's explore that and let's adventure into that. And so we got the rose, and you had actually been mentioning like, and he don't call it a vibrator or anything like that. He was like, did you get your little friend? But you were very accommodating and patient and understanding in that whole process of let's just adventure so I can learn more about my body. And so you can also learn more about my body and what it may take in certain moments to get to that space, because I just think a lot of women don't know, and I still don't know.
Yeah, pleasure is not a conversation attributed to the sex talk, the birds and the bees that comes up. And for men, it's a lot easier, a lot more streamlined. It don't take much to get us to where we got to go. And to a certain, let me ask you this. Probably not in our relationship, but I guess if you had to speak for women at large, is that frustrating? Is there any sense of jealousy or envy in how little it takes to get us to where we got to go, as opposed to the hoops of fire a man needs to be prepared to jump through to assist y'all in where y'all going? Does that come up in the girls' talk and the sister circles when y'all talking pleasure?
It doesn't come up in any of mine, but I can see how it could be. Because I think in that space, both people want to enjoy themselves and have the end outcome. And I think there can be maybe not judgment but frustration when women don't get the outcome that they want. Just because most women, I think, have felt used in their bodies. And so when you felt that way possibly in the past, and then now you're having sex with somebody that you love and you know doesn't feel that way, but they still get something and you don't. But I also don't know what women feel because all of us feel completely differently in our body. So one person could be having sex and not climax and it feel like pain to her, where the other woman could be having sex and it feel amazing. They just can't get to that peak point. So I can't even say, because we all feel so differently. And that's why it's so weird, because what it's like with y'all just have sex and y'all come, and it's that easy. I can have the exact same conversation with another person, 3 women, and everybody will have completely different sensations, and we won't be able to relate on anything.
And that's why
Which makes it really hard, because then who do you talk to?
Except for your partner. And a lot of times we're not in positions to be able to have that conversation. And I never felt the way when it came up. I want you to have the best possible experience every time. I also understand.
And I do.
I'm gonna ask you some questions. You sure you cool with this? I know this is a pivot from what we was about to talk about. We'll still get to it, but I think this conversation is gonna be helpful for people. But initially, we didn't have a talk about it. And initially, a friend popped up in the moment, and I'm like, "What the hell is what the hell? What the heliante?" And then I understood what it was, and I did my best to just adjust. But we hadn't had a conversation on it, and it did kind of throw me off a little bit. We was able to finish what we had to finish, but and then we didn't even really talk about it after that. Until this recent conversation, and when we had it, it opened up space for me to be able to advocate for that type. Threw me off, a friend, and then I was able to get into what I would be open to, because I think it's a few different things. I've been in a position where I've never had that in any of my sexual experience previously. And then, of course, a man want to feel like I'm enough. You know what I'm saying? But I also understand, learning from you, how complex sexuality is, and y'all being able to experience pleasure is. So I had to put my ego to the back burner and understand this ain't about you not being enough. This is about understanding you need to be able to have open space for new creativity, for new options to be tried along your way. And I'm right there in lock and step with you to discovering what it is that you most like, what it is that you most want. And you mentioned, being in different places, and you had just sent me a reel a little while ago about how houses hold energy. As beautiful as Ajna is, it holds the energy of not just our sexual experiences and our intimacy, but work, trying times, grief, all type of energies are in this house, as opposed to when we outside and we on a Miami balcony about 40 feet. It ain't none of that. It's just, we know what we here to do. We here to have fun and experience pleasure with each other in different ways. So it's a lot more freedom. And it gave me a perspective of, a lot of people would say foreplay is the whole day. I think to a large degree in 2026, men kind of get that, whether they're going to honor that or not. But at this point, I understand the external psychology that's involved. Something like a household and energy, what you got on your quotient as far as the business that you got to get done, the random emotions that you haven't even identified within yourself that could be blocking some of those pleasure portals and stuff like that. So when we had the conversation, it gave me more awareness, and just how intentional, creative, and malleable I need to be. Experience to experience, month to month, year to year, as you continue to change and grow. Again, the man is going to be very predictable pretty much our whole sexual lives and histories, but y'all are constantly morphing and changing into new needs, desires, wants, and requests. So I think that was a big moment for me. I know a lot of men may hear that, oh, you ain't getting her there every time, or even women could be judging me right now. I'm cool with that, because I understand this lifelong thing is about being able to have the skill set of not perfection all the time or even execution, but that malleability and that openness to, okay, baby, what you need now? and let me see if I could do the best I can to assist you in that process. Was it difficult? When I believe I asked the question that opened it up, but was it difficult to relay that to me? Did you feel like I was going to feel away? Were you nervous in that conversation, fearful at all?
I don't think I was fearful, but I've never had to communicate something like that before because I've never felt comfortable with ever asking for what I needed in a sexual space ever. And so our marriage has been the first time that I felt comfortable with having that conversation. But I think the reason why it's not that I was nervous. I wanted to use the best language
You ain't want to hurt my feelings.
I didn't want to hurt your feelings. And then I also wanted to make it clear I really don't know what I'm doing. You know, and that's more of what it's about is I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what my body needs. And so it wasn't like a fear or a nervousness. It was just wanting to be responsible with my words, wanting to do enough of my research to where when I brought it to you, I could make my desire to explore clear, and there was clarity and there wasn't confusion. That's where I was more putting my focus. But I was just now doing that research about that. So I still don't have all of the proper language to make it fully clear because I'm still learning it myself. And I think that's the confusing thing because when women are having sex, there's so many aspects of our bodies that we have to be in constant communication with. And I recognize even for myself, as safe as you make me feel, as safe as our home is, as safe as our sex is, as good and how good it feels, I still have to remind my body to let go. So when we first start, I'm still reminding myself, Candyss, let go. Be here. Be free. Express yourself. Be sensual. Speak. Use your words. And that's just something in the past, I just would be like this. And I recognized there was so much tension because there was so much fear. And there's so much fear because unconsciously I recognize I don't know shit about my body. And so now that I'm in a safe and a loving marriage with you, I had to really get to a place to where I'm like, hey, y'all can explore your body together. Like you can get to know these parts of yourself together. It doesn't have to be such a fearful or confusing thing. It could really be an adventure to seeing like, nah, we don't like that vibrator. Let's try something else. You know, it could also be something that's fun. And I think I had to do some research to really get to a place to where I'm like, no, this is my body. I want to explore it. I want to learn more about it. I want to learn what pleasure actually looks like for me, because a lot of times we speak about joy and we speak about peace. We don't really do a lot of speaking around pleasure and what makes you feel pleasure. How can you nurture pleasure in your body? How can you explore an adventure into different things that bring you pleasure? And I think that's really what I was looking into at that time.
And then you said, I feel like a battle rapper. You said something about, but now you said something that you don't really know what you're doing, what you want just yet. And that's understandable. And for the women who feel like they're in that position, I mean, it's a lot based off those numbers. It's understandable. A lot of times I don't think we look at men in the same capacity. And as you were saying it, I was just vetting it out within myself. Often, in most cases, I say in a lot of cases, women is moving and shaking these days too, but we got more sexual experiences than our partners in a lot of cases. And it's assumed from very early, even when we first start having sex, I often ask my male clients, at what age did you offer, I don't say lose, did you offer your virginity to somebody? And the context of it, were you coerced? Were you pressured? Did your uncle set it up? Hey, you need to get some, you know what I'm saying? Like a lot of the first instances we have with sexual energy is that pressure from an elder saying you need to go ahead and cross that threshold. Of course, there's sexual abuse on our end as well. But even with how many sexual experiences we have with so many different partners, by the time we are in a committed relationship with a woman we want to spend our lives with, we don't know either. Because the women we was with also probably didn't know. The ones that we have mutually enjoyed our time and they may have climax, and of course we climaxed. It was a lot of factors that led to that. We both drunk, we both high, we young, we ain't got much pressure in life. It's a lot less blockages in those phases of our lives as men when we was just running through women, when it seemed like everything we was doing was working. You know what I'm saying? And by the time we get to a wife or a significant other for real, we have this context of thinking we know. But those women also either didn't know what they wanted or were very open in their sacral chakra. And they were also different women. Like you said, you could ask those 3-4 women the exact same question. It's all different experiences, all different sensations. So none of that historical context of my sexual prowess has anything to do with how I'm supposed to show up here. We also are oblivious. And a lot of us don't realize that ourselves. If we do realize that, we're afraid to communicate that to our partner. And then our partner never realizes this is ground zero for him too. He has to be built up from level one and me discovering what I want for myself and being able to relay that to him and us working in concert. So we are looked at as the sexual leaders. We supposed to get y'all there and make you ... When 9 times out of 10, when you're talking committed long-term relationship, we don't know what the hell we doing either.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I never really thought about that, how much pressure it is on men having sex, because the assumption is it just feels good to y'all, so y'all just do it. But I think...
Can I say something to that real quick?
Go ahead.
As far as the performance pressure, a lot of the brothers I've counseled and couples I've counseled when they've gotten into sexual ruts and long-term relationships, a lot of it ain't even anatomic. It may start as maybe a physical condition or something going on with them mentally, and they'll have one experience, and I've been here before. They'll have one experience where maybe he ain't show up, or that particular experience wasn't that great if he was able to get erect. Just one of those, it's like inception. And it plants inside a man's mind, and he could feel safe with his woman and all of that. But that performance pressure with that one example of when he didn't, like we used to say, he ain't put up 50. He ain't have a 50-point game. He may have had like 8 points, 2 boards, and a block. You know what I'm saying? He got through it. But he feel like he didn't reach his potential in that moment. It stays with him. Especially if he feels like it's my job to get her there as opposed to this being a collaboration or concert. And that grows. That inception seed starts to grow into now he got erectile issues that he think is my body, but it's more so your mind responding to that one experience that has now turned into a narrative of, what if I just hit the wall? What if I'm no longer what I was in my 20s? And what if this continues and this she gonna leave me? And before you know it, all that's coming into the bedroom.
Yeah.
He's doing his best not to show it. He's trying to be a good soldier, but it's more so about, is this going to be the one where she realizes I'm not attracted to her, even if that's not the case, or maybe she's not going to be attracted to me if I don't put up this 50-point game, and then there's so much fallout from just the performance pressure a lot of men got to experience.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, because it is a lot of pressure. And now that you say that, it's a lot of pressure on both ends. But it doesn't seem like this pressure is being spoken about unless people are in such a free-flowing, sensual space to where they're just open and free in their sexuality. And I think with women too, our bodies change so often to where it's like we're in our 30s going through premenopause, having hot flashes, and it's just certain things within us that are changing, and we didn't have the elders to sit us down and explain to us what these things are. We didn't really have elders teach us how to become women. So when we get into these healthy relationships, or when we get into healthy marriages, we're actually discovering how to become women in real time. And I'm not talking about like you independent, you make your own money, you get your hair, nails done, and all of those things. I'm talking about the inner workings of what it looks like to be an emotionally stable woman, to have spiritual integrity, to be able to have compassion and empathy, to be able to still have your sensuality after doing a whole day's worth of work, but also having your sensuality while you're taking care of your spouse, taking care of the household. There's so many aspects to our energy that we don't understand. On top of that, if a woman has experienced any type of sexual
Trauma,
abuse
yeah.
or sexual trauma in her past, all of that goes straight to the womb. And so it can either affect it in a negative way, or it makes a woman hypersexual, which they have labeled as normal, but that's not normal behavior. And so in relationships with our men, it's almost, I'm not going to say impossible, but if a woman has not done her own personal work to meet herself at the depths of her being, I can't even teach you how to properly love me.
Right.
I can't even teach you how to properly make love to me because I don't know how to conjure those things within myself. And so that's like when women do this thing where they're like, I need a man that's going to make sure keep me safe. Well, he can only keep you as safe as you are safe in your internal world. So if you don't have an internal world that's safe, the man can only keep a safe space and you'll probably still feel like you in danger. The same goes for our sexual experiences. It's my job to explore the depths of my being, come back with all of the lessons after I've learned myself, and then I present that to you, and I can teach you how to love me and make love to me properly.
You also mentioned hypersexuality. And for the ladies who may have experienced some level of sexual abuse, I always advocate for the book Secret Wisdom of the Yoni Gates by Calarius Phoenix. And she has a chapter on how, the sacral chakra can tend to blow out for a woman when they're, she over here stealing my water, y'all.
Sorry.
You ain't gonna get away. But yeah, and of course, love and healing energy to all the women who may have experienced some level of sexual abuse, mental as well. But from those experiences, the sacral chakra blows out. Sacral chakra includes emotions, desires, sexual energy, and creativity. And there will usually be two directions that a woman can take. It's hypersexuality, and she becoming very promiscuous, usually at early ages, because a lot of the sexual abuse is at early ages. Or there will be hyposexuality, where she either is not having sex, does not want to have sex, or if she's having it, she's not really enjoying it or wants to even be in that space. You also got a hybrid, where overtly they are in a hypersexual space, but they still not enjoying any of that. They don't even realize I'm working on this wound, and the only way I have available to me, which is to continue to go back to the sacral chakra with sensation and stimulation, right? But then you have hyposexuality that doesn't just come from sexual abuse. We both was coming out of periods of hyposexuality. For me, that was being celibate for a year and a half, and then multiple bouts of extended periods of celibacy. You had 4 years of celibacy and abstinence. When we first got together, our first sexual experiences, I remember and I had forgot about it. And when we was talking about and me advocating for you initiating more, you brought up the experience of when you felt like I shut you down because we was at the hotel. It was the historic freeze. We had crossed that threshold at the Airbnb, but then the freeze came and we had to hustle and get back to Houston. Your cousin allowed us to have a room at the Marriott, so we was there for like 6-7 days. And of course, we got it in again there. I think maybe the day before I was about to leave, you tried to initiate. And I knew I had expended a certain amount of force sexually, and I was a lot more rigid and stringent then. You know, I'm with my wife now, so I still factor that in, but it's a lot more than it was then. But I told you I'm back in conservation mode. You didn't even ask me about it. You said, cool, right? But it came up years later that was still factoring into some of the moments where you want to initiate. You don't know if you just asked me yesterday, you in conservation mode, right? You could just ask me that now, but some of those things are factors that don't allow just a spontaneity to always be available. And that's much different than coming out of the space where we clubbing, drinking, high, hooking up culture, you're not worried about none of that. You don't got to ask none of those questions. You know what time it is. And that hyposexuality out of healing and spirituality and not being as active and not just being able to rely on, let's drink a bottle together, let's smoke a whole ounce together and see what happened. There's none of that there. So that certain aspect of freedom, spontaneity, fun, not knowing what's going to come of this experience, that's kind of taken away in a healthy, connective relationship with two people who are doing their spiritual work. And boredom can grow out of that. The lack of being able to be spontaneous and have some of that, I need a man that's just going to do this, that, and the third and not worry about some of that not there because I'm worried. Not worried, but I care about you. I'm investigating your overall well-being day in and day out. So I almost have to, and we have our role-playing experiences a lot. I don't have to, but it's easier to morph into a different aspect of myself to go ahead and...
Yo, come on, knock my head against the wall.
To go ahead and I'm sorry, baby. To go ahead and do the gentleman. I'm sorry, baby. But the real end want to do all this, and she love getting her head pressed into the wall. She want me to put her whole head through a wall. But sometimes some of that becomes less readily available in a healthy, connected relationship. So we got to be able to accommodate for and make shifts around those type of things, those type of hyposexualities that come from the good stuff, the positive stuff, as opposed to just sexual abuse.
Man, you just said a whole lot there, and I actually didn't factor that in. Like, I didn't factor in the aspect of, because we not going to the club.
You sure you're okay?
I'm positive.
Okay.
Thank you, baby. I didn't factor in that part. You know, a lot of the things that get other people going, we are not participating in those things. And so when we go into our sexual nature, it really is us honoring our sexual nature. But our sexual nature has been nurtured so much because of our bouts of celibacy. So you were celibate for a year and a half. I was celibate for 4 years. You're still having bouts of retaining and you know, there's moments where we'll go a month and we'll not have sex because we're conserving and remember, when you're conserving your energy, this is your life force. This is how you maintain living. And so
especially for men.
Yeah, especially for men. Women can really get away with a lot more because, you know, when we have orgasms and things like that, the orgasm is intentionally to birth life.
And y'all don't deplete when y'all orgasm. Y'all don't lose nutrients and minerals, and then on the spiritual level literally lose life force. Y'all actually replete. It actually inspires y'all to become more motivated to be able to circulate energy. Whereas with us, we got to die a little bit every time we bust one of them things. So
and that's important to acknowledge. So when we are cultivating our sexual energy, we really have to just honor the true nature of our love for one another. It's not something else that's driving us, like it's something else that's driving other people. And it's also not a lust that's driving us either. It's really a deep love that's driving us. And so sometimes love can take forms in so many different ways that it don't always show up as sex. And I think I had to recognize within me, now that I've, you know, in hindsight, after you've said that, I've had to recognize within me that a part of my lack of initiating was also because I was just happy and in love. And there were some times where it just genuinely wasn't crossing my mind because I was so happy with the state of where we were. It didn't even feel like anything was missing from me. Wow. And one thing that I'll say is like our sex is so beautiful. I've cried many times. So, and I've cried many times whether I had an orgasm or didn't have an orgasm. That's just how good and beautiful our sex is. So those moments where I was afraid to initiate, it was also moments where I was just blissed out regardless of having to have sexual intercourse. And so now that I feel a lot more free in my sensuality, and you've been a really pivotal part in just making sure I feel safe to practice initiating. I have been on girls trips and I'm like, I'll be back, y'all. I'm about to go make love to my man. Like, that was really important for me. And it was really like, it was scary, but it was something that I wanted to do. I've always wanted to do it. I just didn't know how. I didn't know how to lead in that way. So it was twofold. There was a fear of just owning my power in that way. But then it was also, I was just so happy and blissed out in our marriage where it didn't feel like anything was missing.
Nah, you just scraped the bottom of the ocean with love-based sexuality as opposed to lust-based. And as you said, I'm like, is it lust? And nah. Like, of
Right.
course, and people hear lust, they think about a primal level of attraction and desire for somebody. That's there.
Yeah.
But it's like you said, it's from a foundation of the love we got for each other, which allows us to go long periods of time genuinely not thinking about it on both sides. Don't mean we don't want each other or
Right.
enjoy what we do. It's just like that love thing is so powerful, and physical sex, as beautiful as it is and can be, is still the lowest, most dense expression of love. It's been times we laid on that bed naked, not having done anything, and it's the middle of the day and the sun is shining on us and it's opening up our pores and we just sit next to each other in euphoria, like, bruh, what is happening right now? So, and I know a lot of couples may not have had access to those types of or levels of intimacy, especially with a lot of men. But in hearing that lust piece, I think that may have been some of my, I don't know if difficulty is the right word. Like, I remember when we was having a conversation about you initiating, I was advocating for wanting to feel like desired by you, like primally desired by you. And sometimes that's not going to be as readily available when it's coming from the love quotient, because it is so much more intentional. It is so much more opportunities for that love thing to just sweep us up. So in a masculine mind, it's like, bro, it's been 2-3 weeks and Shane tried to initiate nothing. And me coming from that lust principle of that's how my sexuality being expressed, the male mind will bypass, bro, she just so in love right now. Like, she ain't tripping off of it. You know what I'm saying? And I have a lot of those moments where it's the same thing. But my relationship with my sexuality was so much based in lust previous that this is still 6, damn near 7 years in, this new ground. And you just encapsulating it like that, it just made me realize there's more understanding and grace for that transition I need to have for myself. I need to be able to have for you. Even though you have picked up the ball as far as the initiation conversation has happened, it's still a lot of that transition from the lust-based chemistry to the love-based chemistry. And that, again, this is part of why healthy connections often feel boring to people, because they don't understand that that's the transition that's being made. We're not having sex as much as we used to. And I know a lot of brothers out here also getting into semen retention, no fap. I want to conserve my energy. I want to go to a higher level of my spirituality for not just myself, but for my wife and my family structure, which can look like, oh, you in that book again? Oh, you're not having sex again? We're not going out? You don't want to drink? You don't want to smoke? And that could come off like there's a disconnection happening, because that lust quotient, which is powerful, we know how powerful that lust thing is. When that's not as readily available, there are some shifts that's going to have to happen.
Yeah, that's true, because I remember it was a interview that Aisha Curry did, and they were like, what's one thing that you know Steph cannot go without? And she basically responded, sex.
He looked at, he was right there. He said, you better know the answer.
Right.
Yeah.
And so to me, more than lust, more than love, it feels like that's more of like an addiction where you cannot go without it. But I think it would be really beautiful if couples married or just in healthy relationships with two people that love each other and want the best for one another, I think it'll be really healthy if they started to take sex fast and see what their relationship and their love looks like when sex is not involved. See what your connection looks like. See how much that trust maintains. See how much fun is present. See how much joy is present when you take sex off the table, and not as a punishment, but as a way to go deeper into learning one another. It's a fast. The intention of a fast is to break your flesh, is to identify the parts of your being that have power over you. If you cannot go a week without it, then you are addicted. If you cannot go a month without it, then you are addicted. So on and so on. And so I think what I learned from us when we intentionally do sex fast, it allows our love to morph into different crevices and go into different crevices that we aren't always paying attention to. So I may notice certain things about you. You may notice certain things about me. You may hear the words that I say a lot clearly. You may not have to ask me what's wrong, because intuitively you've already been able to pick up on it, because a lot of those sexual behaviors have been put to the side. Other parts of your senses come alive. And so I think when in relationship, when you start to intentionally practice sex fast, it allows y'all to grow closer and deeper. And this is not, what I will say is, if you have a partner that's like, all we about to do is sex fast and all you listening to them on Instagram, like, you need to quit listening to that shit. I would recommend that you also have your husband or your wife listen to this podcast and actually do some research about what the semen retention actually looks like and what it does for the body, because most men have some level of an ailment present, because men are less likely to go to the doctor.
Yeah.
So if you're trying to heal your body, then the best thing that you can do is not give out the life force that comes from your body. If you're a woman and you're trying to nurture your power, then it's probably best that you don't just give out so much of it so often.
And this is a good segue into more of the topic. You know, he played in my face. One of the questions I had for it was, is it possible to develop intuition so good that you can't be fooled by anyone? Yes or no answer?
Yes.
It's possible. Okay. So with that being said, we're talking about development of our intuitive prowess, like you was just saying. And you said the clarity can come online when couples have sex fast. The foundation more than likely should, not should. I don't want to tell nobody what to do or suggest what y'all should do. But we've seen a benefit with us and with other couples that we know who started the relationship with a sex fast. Because, you know, she done pulled me into her world of reality television. There's certain things I just ain't watching. I ain't watching Real Housewives of Potomac. I ain't watching none of that, right? Potomac, whatever. But she has got me into Love is Blind. What was the couple, the black couple? You
I can't remember their names.
Y'all know who we talking about. All the brothers was watching that, and now I'm open to
KD and
I forgot.
Okay.
But y'all know who we talking about, probably. Yeah. And the reason I do continue to watch it, much like Survivor, another one of our favorite shows to watch together, it's a lot of psychology involved, where you get to have a bird's eye view into how people end up in relationships with each other, healthy and or toxic. And once they get through the pods, if y'all have never seen Love is Blind, they spend a certain amount of time not being able to see the other individual. They have multiple dates for about a week and a half, and then they end up choosing who they want to propose to them, right? Without seeing each other. And when it transitions from the proposal, they come out, they see each other, and sometimes it's awkward, sometimes it's nice, but a lot of times it's awkward. That awkwardness will often wear off. When what? They go on their honeymoon. They go to Cabo, Mexico, wherever they go. And the first thing they start doing, and I hate these damn cups that they got every scene in. Yeah, like they must got a contract with this gold cup company, but they always got the gold cups.
Even the kids got
Even the
the
kids
gold
got the gold
cups.
cups. But
Even when they go to go to the restaurants, they drinking out the gold
facts.
cups.
But during the honeymoon vacation thing, they pretty much drinking the whole time. So you got the narcotic of alcohol. You got the dopamine of environment and being in this beautiful space. You got the dopamine of most of them usually have sex pretty quickly. You got the dopamine of sex on top of that. And we'll say sex is about a dopamine release, but we won't look at it as sex as a narcotic. If I'm in a period of getting to know this person, we off top already probably have 3 narcotics that we got to work through to get to some semblance of clarity of who this person is. Knowing what I know now, and of course we was long distance, but I think we would have still been very intentional and going some level of the time we went and before we had sex. We was 9 months in before we had sex. I've asked you before if you think it would have been that long. Probably not, but we still would have had a considerable amount of time. It probably would have been somewhere in that area. But a lot of y'all, most of y'all is having sex within the first 3 months. That's a stretch for a lot of people. We talking 2 months, 1 month, couple dates. We've had our sister Kira in the old version of herself say, I got to have sex before we do anything. So the first date, we just going to get it in and then we'll see where it goes from there. We are already inviting a mind-altering substance, especially if it's good, into our decision-making with this person. We have no idea of their true north. And I was looking up some of like the lengths of time it takes to know a person's psychology. You got the 3-month rule, right? Often cited as the time to see through initial infatuation and recognize if a relationship has long-term potential. Then you got the best foot forward phase. People often mask their true selves for the first few months. Deeper truths may not emerge until after 6 to 12 months, right? This is only the second phase. Third phase is the MOT phase, milestones over time. Knowing someone is accelerated by observing how they handle stress, conflict, or treat others during so. Then you got shared travel, long car trips, meeting family and friends, and living together phases. In the first 3 months, we don't know none of that shit. And you factor in the narcotics of weed, alcohol, and or sex, and the dopamine of all these experiences y'all having, great dates, great places to go, museums, concerts. By the time you wake up, and they often do this on Love is Blind, when they get back to actual regular life, I ain't even attracted to you like that. Bro, where was that thought when you was in Cabo? When you first met this person, when they was coming across the other red carpet, that thought wasn't there? Or you made a conscious decision to bypass that thought because I want someone so bad. I can try to trick myself into feeling like, well, this don't matter. And then 3 months down the line, a year down the line, 5 years down the line, I don't even want this person no more.
Mm-hmm. Yep. What was that question that you was just speaking of?
The question was, is it possible to develop intuition so good that you can't be fooled by anyone?
Yeah, man. And this is so big because right now we're having a lot of conversation with people around, people lie. Like that's their thing.
He played in my face.
Yeah, he played in my face and people lie. And this guy on my Instagram was just saying, nah, like people act one way 1 minute and then, they get you. And my thing to that is we cannot continue to use phrases like, oh, I'm a king, or I'm a queen, I'm a priestess, I got all of this power. But the second you get into a relationship and someone hurts you, you immediately become the victim. And not only do you become the victim, you rest on blame about what the other person did as opposed to taking accountability for the part you play in your own suffering. And one thing that women are really refusing to acknowledge is how much power we hold. A man cannot enter a relationship with us until we say yes, which means we have all of the time in the world to vet. And what it comes down to is women are not vetting properly. And there's an impatience because my thing is I wouldn't care if it took you 2 years. We are not intelligent enough to hold on to a mask for long periods
Facts.
of time. We just aren't.
Especially men.
Right. And so the thing is, they use lie detector tests. But what happens if you don't have a lie detector test? You have people who are just trained to study your behavior, your gesticular, and your body movement, which looks like you can literally be lying. You will shake your head no, but you will say
Yeah.
yes. Your body starts to tell on you at some point. So when people are like, oh, people change and, I never saw this coming, that's bullshit. And we got to start calling people out and holding them accountable, because instead of them just acknowledging, I willfully look past things that I now see as red flags. There were signs. There were behaviors that this person displayed that I could have saw, acknowledged, and took a break and pause and said, you know what? I saw something. I don't know what it is. I don't even know if it'll lead anywhere. I don't even know if it's evidence that this person may have some unhealthy behaviors. But because I saw something, no matter how small it is, I'm going to take a step back and I'm just going to take my time. And even if taking my time looks like waiting 2 years to see all versions of that person play out, as opposed to rushing because you're being guided by your wounds. You hear what your wounds need you to hear. You hear what your traumas need you to hear. And on top of that, you have already decided that this is a good person, not because they've shown you evidence, but you need them to be a good person because you need them to validate the fact that you want love from them. You need them to justify your wounds and fill your voids. So you don't even give your body the opportunity, or your intuition the opportunity, to properly guide you and tell you if this is a person that's safe or not. If this is a relationship that's safe or not for you to enter, you've already bypassed and betrayed your own intuitive muscle by choosing to decide that this is a good person before they've shown you that's a good person. And you only did that because you needed something from them, which is love. That's on you. That is not on that other person. You have everything within you. You are fully equipped. God made you and created you with everything you need to discern who is a safe space versus who gonna drag your ass through hell. And if you willfully refuse to acknowledge that God has equipped you with a heart that literally has an electromagnetic field that extends out to upwards to 25 feet just to discern what is safe versus what's not. You have all of the technology built within you. God gave that to you. So if you don't use your technology, if you don't use time, all of the things that are on your side to discern if a person is for you or not for you, that is for you to take accountability for, not to place the blame on another person.
And that goes both ways. It's not just about protecting yourself as the woman or the man, but I'm going to speak from that direction. It's not just you protecting yourself as a woman and making the right choice. You are not giving that man enough time to study you. All versions of you. And think about how fast we go to the sex, right? And as soon as sex comes in, y'all may have had some platonic energy at the foundation of your connection, but as soon as sex come in, it's just so powerful, it immediately allows romance to take precedent. So I only got to be friends with you for a couple months. I didn't get to see the full gamut of how friendship you functions, friendship you fears, friendship you apprehensions. I didn't get to fully take all my quizzes, all my tests, and pass the friendship course before you sent me to the next grade of romance. And then I'm able to see the romance aspect of you on all these different levels. We already talking about and being pushed and prodded into, well, what are we going to be? Are we going to be exclusive? And then if we go to the exclusivity, you're pushing me forward. In a lot of cases, women will push us forward to when we're going to have kids, when we're going to do this marriage thing. So at every instance, I know women may feel like, well, I'm vying for it. Like we talked about on the reaction video, Sarah talked a lot about the safety of titles and marriage and a man showing he wants to go to the next steps. But in us being rushed, we already a lot of times come into these relationships without the clarity, without the emotional bandwidth to see certain things. So we actually need a lot more time to be able to see the true person of who you are, your true north. And that's being taken away from us. So we don't get the opportunity. And then the thing I hear from a lot of my clients, my female clients in counseling sessions, docs, he don't get me. Docs, he don't understand me. I've been with this man for 10, 15 years. And Did you give him time to study you on every level before y'all just locked in, and now y'all got 4 or 5 kids and a mortgage, and y'all talking about divorce and stuff? He didn't get the necessary study time before you continue to promote this man to the next level. So it actually goes beyond y'all making a proper choice for you. A lot of y'all are coming across good men who would know how to love you had they got the proper study time. But you promoted him. He got in a position he wasn't ready for, and now it looks like, damn, he ain't it either. And none of these men is good enough. They not even getting the necessary time to ascend to where they need to be a quality individual for you.
That's a fact. I had wrote something while you were speaking. It says, never underestimate a person's capacity to rearrange their consciousness to align with their own darkness. And until you have seen the darkest spaces that a person has the capacity to go, you do not know them.
You don't know.
So just with that statement alone, the average person is not waiting to see how you show up when darkness arrives at your door. They aren't waiting to see how a person behaves when they're emotionally triggered. They aren't able to hold off on sex, let alone entering a relationship long enough to see how a person shows up when their emotional wounds start knocking at this relationship door. And so if we acknowledge that we all have some level of darkness, then that means my job is to just sit back and be observant of who you have the capacity to at some point become based on what you feel. And for a lot of people, that can take time. It may take weeks, it could take months, it could take years. So my thing is, what is the rush? Why is there such a rush to get into a relationship, to be chosen, to feel love, and to not feel lonely? So much so that you're willing to bypass the fact that you know this person has darkness within them, because we all do. We have darkness, we have light. So you know that it's present, but you haven't fully met it yet. So why are you entering a relationship with a person that, by that definition, you can admit you actually don't know? We have to take accountability for what we allow into our lives. We have to take accountability for the people that we allow to share space with us, knowing we don't know them or who they have the capacity to become. And what I recognize a lot of people do is they'll enter the relationship prematurely before they fully know who this person really is. And when the person shows them, when that mask starts to come off and they see the true reality of who a person is, they rest on blame. And the only reason people rest on blame is because that's their way of feeling powerful. And they only rest on blame when it comes to relationships. People take accountability in many other areas of their life, but when it comes to relationships and what they did wrong or how they could have shown up better, they don't really take accountability. They resort to being the victim. And this is because a victim mentality makes them temporarily feel powerful. They don't want to take accountability for the part that they played in their own suffering, because when you feel powerless in your pain, you are looking for a way to feel powerful, and blame allows you to do that. And also, when you rest on blame, you get the world's validation. Right? And so what happens though is when you rest on blame, you rob yourself of the opportunities to heal, grow, and evolve. You rob yourself of your own opportunities to learn lessons. And I think a lot of people are also running from the shame, the guilt, and the embarrassment of them improperly choosing people that are not good for them. And there's nothing to be ashamed about. There's nothing to be embarrassed about. These are lived lessons. The only shame and embarrassment should come when you have a deep refusal to implement or acknowledge those lessons.
And when you were saying, why y'all rushing? We know the reason. There's only one reason you're going to rush into any form of relationship that you haven't properly vetted out. You're not enough for you yet. When you have, and people will hear us say, I don't think it really registers for real, that when we met, we was to the point where we was prepared and embracing the potential experience of going the rest of our life, honoring our own love for ourselves. I don't want no relationship. My wife was saying, I don't want no relationship. But until you get to that point where you're able to surrender everything and say, God, me and you is enough, that's when you can still attract people on the way to that ascension. But when you get to that point, There's a level of clarity. There's a level of cachet that you've built up where you don't have to just throw your dice on the table just because so-and-so is attractive and it's been a long time. I ain't had sex in a minute. I be seeing all these memes and gifs online of people saying, man, ain't nobody trying to hear all that. Wait 3 to 6 months. I'm horny. I want something. Y'all will be in those pockets and joke about it online, but these are indications. If you miss having a partner, if you feel bad about being single or alone, you still got a lot more work to do to ascend to a point where you can go the rest of your life legitimately and still be extremely happy and content by yourself. And we'll laugh at the cat ladies, which, you know, if I ain't show up, she definitely would have turned into a cat lady, y'all. She's still trying.
She's still
We got
trying.
3 already and counting. But we'll laugh at these cat ladies with the gray hair and 40 cats in the crib. But every time we see one of those videos, what you see on their face? Smile. Mm-hmm. They happy. They don't got no mate. And they'll say, I ain't had to deal with nobody's stuff for the past 30, 40 years. And it's not from a place of being jaded by love. I'm genuinely good. This is why when we have conversations about women not wanting kids, men not wanting marriage, people wanting to just do this thing alone, they get judged for it. They get ridiculed because it highlights that other people haven't gotten to that point where just them alone is enough. And if that's not the case, of course, you're going to need placeholders. Of course, you're going to need paperweights to put in your life. And it correlates to, there was an extension of the numbers I just threw out where they also talked about the 3 to 4 year period. That's the deep understanding period. A long-term understanding involves witnessing how a person reacts to significant life changes, challenges, and stress over several years. Usually that coalesces between 3 to 4 years. So even if you get a huge amount of a person's true north, the deep levels of understanding usually take that long. Now, that can be expedited based on some of these factors. Frequency of interaction. Even though we was long distance, we was in them DMs all day, every day. We wasn't on the phone for hours at a time. You know, the DM is convenient. So the amount of conversation was similar to what they experienced on Love is Blind in the pods. And we talking about over 9 months. Matter of fact, no, it was longer than that. No, yeah, it was. It was 9 months of that level of intimacy. And then within those types of interactions, conversational depth. I don't know what a lot of y'all be talking about on these dates. I don't know what kind of fucking questions y'all be asking. Because y'all are getting there in therapy with me 6, 7, 10 years down the line, and I'll ask a question that you should have asked on the first date that you don't got the answer to. Y'all be in here playing, talking about 401ks. What's your favorite color? Do you like the flats or the drums? Right? What do y'all be doing in these dates outside of having fun and chasing dopamine? And this is why you end up in these dumbass situations, but then blame the rest of society and the rest of men and the rest of women because your investigation process wasn't on par. The level of deep conversations that our foundation started with, the first conversation we had was quantum entanglement, which we've talked about before. I'm not going to get into all the specifics of that, but that set the precedent that to this day, yes, we can do the mindless banter, talk about a little reality show, joke about some music, whatever it is, but still the majority of what we're talking about is how to walk each other home to God. What this life thing is. I'm frustrated. I don't want to be here today. Why we got to be human? What's the price of tea in China on Jupiter? Like all this type of stuff is still the crux of our conversations and that conversational depth. You could be with an individual for 10 years. But ladies, y'all will let me know in these sessions that I don't even talk much. So your 10 years equates to maybe a month of somebody else who's having that conversational depth. You ain't even been with this man for real if he ain't even talking to you, right? So that leads me to this, right? I want to give people tangible tools based on our experience. How do you investigate? Starts with the questions. And we actually are coming with a product that will help y'all with the questions. We're not going to announce that just yet, but we're going to do our best to help y'all with that. Something that's affordable that you can buy that's going to help you on these dates, right? But there were certain things that my intuitive prowess, my clarity, my absence of rush, right? Me being okay, if this don't work with you, I'm still going to be fine. All that put me in a space to be able to see you in certain ways and pick up on certain things that maybe another brother wouldn't have picked up on. Do you know the first thing that raised my antenna as far as There's something to this particular thing she just did, even though it was extremely early on, that let me know you had the potential to be my wife for real. What was the first thing?
I thanked you for acknowledging me and supporting me.
Right? I caught wind of Candyss on social media, and I was not trying to holler. I just said the messages she's giving to the world and the package that it comes in. There's certain things I'm gonna say ain't nobody gonna click on, but she looks a certain way where it's like I know she can get that message further than I can a certain way. So let me just support the message through this package. And I did that for about 2 weeks, and very early on, within 2 weeks, coming in the DM like, yo, thank you. I just been seeing you posting a lot and support me, and I just wanted to say I appreciate you. You know how many women got thousands of DMs, and not everybody is on some sucker, I'm just trying to get in your pants. It's genuine men in there too, just trying to say like, I see you. You're beautiful. You're a beautiful individual. They don't get a response. Years go by them doing this. They don't get one DM back. So when I saw you didn't have to do that, but you still extended gratitude, that was the foundation. Then I want to hear some of these same things from you so you can get your wheels turning. So it was the gratitude piece first that was clear. After the gratitude, maybe about 3-4 months into us going back and forth, I forgot what she even apologized about. But she apologized for something that wasn't really that big to me, that I wasn't even really super offended by, or if at all. And not only did she apologize for it, which healed the wound in me, because I don't think I had ever been apologized to by any woman for anything, including my sister, my mother, and all that. But not only did you apologize, you bullet pointed why you felt the need to apologize. So it wasn't just this whimsical, yeah, I'm sorry about that. You gave me a whole dissertation and made me look at myself like, damn, why didn't I see all this, right? It held the mirror up to certain things within me that I needed to start to adopt, to know how to set boundaries, to know how to ask for what I wanted. I didn't know how to do none of that shit then, but you doing that made me feel worthy enough to start to do that for myself. After the apology, it was you holding my ass to task. You letting me know this was about maybe 6-7 months into the process. And my son's mother still had a very strong emotional hold as far as me being angry, and, you know, you having to hear those conversations and me venting, and you like, look, I'm in a happy place in my life. I want the best for you. I want this to work. I need you to step it up, or I may not be able to be around for this, whatever this is becoming. I had to receive that, be G-checked in a certain way by this pretty little woman that put me in my place, and I had to ascend and realize this is something I got to be able to work on for my own well-being, but especially if what we are developing is going to go further. So you was able to G-check me with compassion, with grace, with articulation and clarity, and then the investment, taking me to St. John's on my birthday. I had never really had a gift given to me by a woman for real, in any way, shape, or form, outside of my mom for Christmas and birthdays. You spent a bag on me for my birthday, and I didn't have it in my bank account to be able to do it for you at that time. So it wasn't just the investment. It was the belief in the fact that I just want to do this for you, whether you could do it for me or not. And low-key, the subtle, I believe there's going to come a day where you'll be able to hit me with the same thing. And that day came, and now we here. Mm-hmm. So it was certain things that I had the space, the time to be able to pick up on, and not just see, but really be able to sit in the power of. You know what I mean? We could have those, I could have those experiences, and if we having sex, I don't have the time to fully ingratiate. Damn, that was a very gracious gratitude moment. Let me like really allow that to matriculate into my DNA and plant what it's supposed to plant. You doing those things for me. Every stage had its time to really coalesce into my system, and I had the clarity to pick up on these things that showed me your true north.
Okay, so tell me the questions in the outline so I can do mine.
Yeah, so what were some of the things that gave you the clarity to know that I am, who I was presenting to be, that I could be a husband and somebody that could hold your heart for a lifetime?
Yeah, so one of the first things was your ability to go deep in conversation. Mm-hmm. And like you said, the question is, what are they talking about when they're entering these relationships? And we recognize they're not talking about much at all. But you had the ability to talk about really deep topics. I had the capacity to learn from you. And initially, before we started having actual conversation, you were just sending me meditations, or you were sending me lectures from people who had deeply intelligent things to say that I had never heard before. So I knew I had the ability to go deep with you. I knew we had a lot of the same.
Ain't nobody going deep within nothing over here.
I knew we had the ability to be deep together. Lord. And then the other thing was your ability to ask me about myself. I've never been with anybody that asked me about myself. They've never asked about like how your day was, how does this make you feel, what do you think about this, what was your childhood like.
Right.
That was always a frustration that I had. And your first question every time we would talk was, how was your heart?
Yeah.
Genuinely wanting to ask, how does my heart feel?
Yeah.
What is my energy like? Where are my points at? Where are your points at with your energy today? Which means how much have you exhausted and how much do you have for yourself? So there's still a care and a nurturing for me even when we were long distance. And then the other aspect was when I first asked you about entrepreneurship. I was still working as a police officer teaching criminal justice. And I hated my job. I was ready to quit my job. And I was able to have that conversation with you. But I asked you, I was like, hey, you know, I'm not quitting yet, but there's something I want to do. I want to sell an ebook. How much do you think I should sell that ebook for? And you didn't even give me a price. You said, let me pray about it. Let me meditate on it. Before you chose to lead me, you went to go have a conversation with God first. I knew off rip. Okay, I know that this is a person that in his leadership, he has a higher power that he's going to consult with. And I don't have to just worry about you leading me based on your own ego or pride or what you think is the best thing to do. You have a powerful, all-knowing being that's also guiding you and stewarding your wisdom. And so that allows me to be able to trust you even more because you understand that I'm so special. You want to make sure before you give me any advice, it's coming from a place to where you can actually stand on that. And a lot of women have issues with leadership because the man is leading from his ego and his pride. He's not leading based on his intuition and his wisdom and the guidance that he got from God. That was really big. And then the last thing was how you protect me. You know, we've spoken about the issues that we've had with your son's mother, but you were very big on making sure none of that touched me. You were very big on making sure that I didn't have to deal with anything unnecessary. I didn't have to have any conversations. I didn't have to do anything. And you just didn't want any negativity to make its way to me whatsoever. And that was really big because it showed me that you were willing to have dissension in your co-parenting relationship just to make sure I was protected, I was okay, and my heart remained pure. Those are, to me, all of the things that women actually look for in relationships. That's protection, that's provision. You have a solid relationship with God. You've already acknowledged our first interaction. You reposted one of my videos. So you have the capacity to support me, even if it doesn't look like you get anything out of it. That's selflessness. That's purity of heart. So although these are just the small things that I can think of off top of my head, it's also a testament to your character. And the last thing that I'll say was your ability to speak to other people as if God was right in front of you. When you have conversations with people, you are looking at them right in their eyes. Nothing else matters. We could be about to be kicked out of a building because it's time to go. He is not going to divert his attention from the person that he's speaking to, because when you speak to people, you've always acknowledged, I'm going to give them my undivided attention, just like they're God sitting in front of me. I thought that was very important and beautiful because I've never seen that before. I've never seen a man who did not have a distraction when it came to his awareness. And that's what leads to cheating. Men who are
Wow.
not focused on what the actual mission is, what their wife needs, what the goal is, what the family goal is. They're distracted because their awareness is in all these different places. You had the capacity to just hone in on one person and stay there, even if the world was crumbling around you. That alone showed me that when I open up to him, when I express vulnerability, when I need him, when I need to share something very important with him, I know that you have the capacity to lock in. I know you have the desire to lock in. You have the want to hear what I'm saying. Because when you speaking to these other people, they ain't talking about shit. And if they are talking about something, they are venting their life away. There's nothing in that conversation for
That's
you.
for me. Yeah.
You know, so the selflessness is still showing up and maintaining your focus on a person, even when you get nothing from it. How you treat other people is a clear example of how you would treat me. I had examples of all the great ways that you treated other people as well. So you had a community that loves you, like people that still sing your praises to this day. So I'm paying attention and I'm observing all the micro ways you move, all the macro ways you move, not just with me, but also with other people. And I think that's what a lot of women and men are not taking into consideration. They aren't taking their time to just simply be observant, to see who a person is when they're by themselves, when they're alone, who they have the capacity to be. How do other people speak about them? All of these things are so important, but they don't become important to the person until they start to spot many character flaws. And by that time, it's too late because you've already committed yourself to a relationship. You've already committed your emotions to a person. And the only way that you can get out of it is to start backtracking by acknowledging I made a mistake. But most people don't say they made a mistake. They say the other person is doing something wrong. I'm not going to blame a liar for being a liar. They've always been the liar. It's just you that hasn't done the proper work to observe their capacity to be a liar. That means you need to take your time, observe them a lot longer, and you don't have to worry about them one day randomly taking their mask off. And this is the last thing I'll say. When you have done the proper work within yourself, when you have identified all of the versions of yourself you have the capacity to become, when you have identified all of your darkness, there is not a person on this earth that can fool you, because when they put their mask on, you can immediately identify it within them because you've already identified it within yourself. When they start to pretend and put on this character or this identity and persona that is a completely different person outside of the truth of who they are, you can identify it because you've already identified the part of yourself that's also performative. When a person has a darkness within them, anger that hasn't been acknowledged, or sadness or grief that hasn't been acknowledged, you can easily see it in the first conversation. You can feel it because you've already identified those things within yourself. You can only meet a person as deeply as you have met yourself. And so when people get into these relationships and they say, oh, they pulled the wool over my eyes, they started to act completely differently, it tells me how much work you have and how much work you haven't done within yourself. Because if you've done that work within yourself, you would have been able to see it. You would have been able to see small behaviors, small lies, because you remember the way that you behaved and the way that you lied. In my sessions with my clients, the reason my clients can't lie to me because I've already done it. I've already lied to myself about the exact same thing. I've already performed. I've already played the victim. I've already placed blame in all these other places. I've already avoided accountability. I've already tried to escape shame and grief and abandonment and all these different things. So when a client tries to come to me and they try to tell a lie, even if the lie is unconsciously, I have the immediate ability to pinpoint it, because I've already pinpointed those things within myself. And if a person's able to pull the wool over your eyes, it means there's certain areas within yourself that you just don't know yet, that you haven't gotten familiar with yet. And instead of placing blame on that person because they were able to pull the wool over your eyes, it may be some opportunity to have gratitude for that person because they have now shown you that there may be an area within yourself that it's time for you to also get to know.
In the infamous words of Ace, We're going to let that breathe. There was a lot in there. And from what I just picked up on, there's a few things that stick out, and we about to wrap it up. We going towards closing. I realize I've never seen your mask. I don't think you've ever seen. I don't know if we still have masks. I mean, in some way, shape, or form, they probably in there, but it makes a person uncomfortable when you know another person's mask is present.
Yeah.
Like when y'all see somebody on stage and they about to perform, and they're nervous. You can feel their nervousness. And we'll all attest to the fact that we've had that experience, but we say, I can't pick up on all this extra sensory stuff y'all talking about. It's actually a very natural thing to be able to pick up on other people's energy. And the most, I don't want to call it negative, but the lowest frequency is inauthenticity. So just like the highest frequency is very powerful, the lowest frequency is very powerful on the antithesis end of that. And inauthenticity, if you're doing your due diligence, you're going to feel it, you're going to smell it, you're going to sense it in some way, shape, or form. And that's one of the things that I think brought us together is we never had one moment in 6 going on 7 years of any inauthenticity with each other in any way, shape, or form. A mask has never existed here. Mm-mm. So that's one thing. And then as far as what we was relaying about the clarity of things we was picking up on, I kind of saw the dance between self-fullness and selflessness. The self-fullness being able to set those boundaries. Hey, look, I'm not going to be able to deal with this at this phase of my life. I'm in a happy space. That's your self-fullness. That's your ability to advocate for your needs, express those needs, and stand on the fucking square of those needs. That's a skill set that has to be in pocket. On the other end, the conversation you had as far as, and you have the same thing, the conversation you had as far as me being able to give the fullness of myself to somebody, even if I'm not getting nothing in return. One of the biggest pieces of investigation, especially for women vetting out men, you need to put yourself in some environment where you can see how he treats other people that he can't get nothing back from. Whether it's a homeless person on the street, whether y'all out at an event and somebody may be a fan or a supporter of his or just want to pick his brain, is he looking at his phone? Is he trying to get your attention, or is he locked in with that expression of God that's in front of him in that moment? That self-full and selflessness, both hemispheres got to be there for it to be a foundation of balance for us to build something on. So that's another part. And then all of this kind of leads to the questions. That's a huge part of the intuition, the investigative process, and in those deep conversations, most of them would start as imagination or interest in a particular thing, and the conversation will morph into so many different directions because of, oh, that triggered this question, and then that triggered that question on your behalf, and before you know it, the questions are turning into answers, not overt answers for life, but overt answers for who we are as individuals and how we see the world. Women are asking, how selfless are you in moments where you can't get nothing back from that person? How much do you devote your attention to another human being? We was talking about sex earlier. Have you ever turned down sex? Right? Are you interested in going 6 months to a year without no sex? And I see women doing that these days, but they'll get discouraged. And with what we're learning about decrees and declarations and creating what we want, a lot of people are in the gestation phase of bringing thought into fruition, but it takes time. So you may be a woman 3 months into 10 dates, and every time you ask a man, are you open to not doing no sex? And you got no and no and no, and now it's like, they not out here. And now you're discouraged, and now you're already tainting that reality that was budding, but it needed you to go through 20 dates. 30 dates, 40 dates, whatever it is, to get over the hump, right? So the questions is extremely important. And the last piece, the forgiveness, the stages of forgiveness that need to happen. And not only just forgetting the men who hurt you or the women that hurt you, also forgiving feminine or masculine energy at large, right? And I got like a timeline of how it's played out in my life. And I said, forgiveness is not enough, right? It needs to be coupled with awareness without identification. Awareness of the particular things they may have done to feel like violation to me, but without identifying to the narratives that come with that awareness. So I need to be able to see all the different nooks and crannies and A to Z of how you may have had me fucked up, but also my choices in allowing you to have me fucked up or playing in my face, how I played in my own face, but also not identifying or hitching my wagon to any of that, right? After the awareness without identification, you get reaction without ownership. In the spiritual space, we'll tell people to evolve past some of this shit, but you still need to be able to have visceral, authentic reactions. I'm angry, I'm resentful, I'm enraged, I'm frustrated by what just happened, but allowing that reaction to express without actually owning any of those emotions. So when they come, you allow them to have the 10 minutes, the hour, the day, the week, whatever it is. But as long as you're not saying, oh, this is my life. No, that was a phase. Your life is what's in front of you right now. So allowing yourself the autonomy to react without owning, and then you allow yourself to wallow without consumption. There's going to be a period where you got to go into the depths of all those emotions that come up, but not allowing yourself to be consumed by them. So that looks like I may wallow 5 hours out of the day, but I'm going to be meditating at least one. I'm going to go in nature and have my nature therapy for at least 15 minutes. I'm going to go do my sun gaze and I'm going to ground out. I'm going to have that balance to allow the human experience to happen, but not get swallowed up by that shit, right? Then you have the attempt to retrieve the story. If that other person is available to you in some way, shape, or form, where you can pick their brain after the relationship, right? And get context on why they saw you in some of the ways they saw you, why they did some of the things you did, from a space of, we just human beings now. I'm not trying to get you back. I'm not trying to blame you for nothing. I'm trying to learn about myself. Are you open to giving me some of that context? If it's not there, do your own work. But the attempt to retrieve the story. Imagine their inner world. Whether you get the context for how they moved or not, put yourself in an empathetic position to understand, well, I do know this about their childhood. I do know this about that sexual abuse they experienced. I do know this about their father. So yes, they may have done me dirty, but I can understand the context of what put them in that position, right? That leads to reasons for their behavior. Now you're starting to really play the chess game of, oh, this is why this connected to that. And once you got that level of understanding, forgiveness starts to surface, right? You don't enact forgiveness. It got to organically, gradually, naturally surface through these processes. Once forgiveness surfaces, empathy ensues, right? And once you get to that empathy point, now you're ready for detachment, and forgetfulness happens. It's to the point you don't even remember what they did to you to even be in a space of blame, because these last 10 niggas did this, that, and the third to me, and niggas ain't shit. That don't even exist no more. The narrative phase, and now you're truly free. Your energy is free, your emotions is free, and now the universe is like, oh, I could work with this. You done cleared up enough space for me to be able to send you Brickcitibuddha. What you got in response?
Man, I don't even know if I have much, because that was really good. That's exactly what I would say. Mm-hmm. And maybe if I were to just end on my last note, it would just be to practice some compassion and some empathy. I would really like to see us bring compassion and empathy back, because in the relationships,
that's a fire merch chat. Make compassion great again.
Yeah, right. Because in relationships now, we've gotten to a place to where everybody is just blaming one another, and everybody's telling everybody what they did wrong versus what you did wrong. And compassion and empathy allow you to see the part that you played in your own suffering. It allows you to take accountability for the fact that your street may not be 100% clean or clear. And one of the things that you mentioned is understanding a person's childhood before you enter a relationship with them. Mm-hmm. I would never enter any relationship unless I have a very clear and full understanding of the inner workings of your childhood, what you experienced, what your parents were like, what y'all's relationship is like now, and the steps that you took to heal. Because what you don't heal in your past will manifest in your present reality. And the wounds of your past will bleed into your present behaviors and your reality as well.
And that version of yourself is who you're going to morph right back into every time we get into some shit.
And you're going to always morph into that version of yourself. It's not and it's not avoidable, because when a person triggers you emotionally, you revert back to the age where you first experienced that trigger. So now you think you're talking to a 34-year-old man or a 32-year-old woman, and you're really speaking to an 8-year-old boy or a 7-year-old little girl. And it's hard to comprehend that, because in the conversation, you're like, why are you acting like this? You're being so childish. I don't even understand who you are right now. Yes, because you never got to know them as a little kid. If you got to know the inner child within them, you'll always be able to tell when their inner child surfaces in the midst of conflict, or when they start to have behaviors that resemble a child self-sabotaging, a child that doesn't feel worthy of love, or a child that's now showing up in abusive behavior because they witnessed their parents become abusive.
Real quick, hold your thought. Or on the positive end of the spectrum, because y'all skipped a lot of that friendship phase. A lot of inner child energy comes to the surface when they feel, oh, I got a friend and you don't want nothing from me extracurricular. We miss a lot of that as well, so we don't get to meet them.
Exactly. And with that said, you meet the parts of that person that you believe and feel can love you. And you discard all of the other parts that could potentially invalidate that love years down the line. So the intention in getting into a relationship is to just practice trying to get to know all of a person. Allow life to happen. Allow situations to unfold, especially the uncomfortable ones, because in those uncomfortable situations or those hard conversations, that's when you really get to tell who a person really is. When they're frustrated because they haven't eaten, or they're frustrated because of certain traffic, you get to tell how a person treats you just when they're frustrated in general, not even when they're angry, but when things aren't going their way, you get to see how much love do they treat you with. These are all small things that a person can do before they enter
Sorry.
No, it's okay. These are all small things. First of all, I feel so tech savvy, and like I know what I'm doing because you sneezed and I knew to bring it back.
You're a professional.
Thank you, babe. These are all small things that a person can do to vet another person properly before they enter a relationship.
Yeah, I think we done said what needed to be said, at least for this juncture. I'm sure we'll revisit this conversation at a certain point. But that's another episode of God Is Me Again podcast. She over here yawning. We about to go lay up and be regular and,
I'm about to go cuddle.
Finish No Country for Old Men, great movie. We should start doing some movie reviews.
We should.
Yeah, we love our movies. But
we'll
Energy
start
Bougie,
with Interstellar.
Yeah, make sure y'all get y'all Energy Bougie merch available online. The link is in the caption for this video. Make sure you purchase my wife's book, Remember Who You Are. New book on the way as well. We have our retreats, our Texas retreats in LaGrange, Texas, coming up in spring, May 28th to May 31st. We are still accepting attendees for that as well, still doing interviews for that, so hit us up. We also will have another retreat in the fall. We don't have the date secure for that, but y'all can hit us up for details. What else? We're both accepting counseling clients. For me, that's one-on-one, that's relationship therapy, that's family counseling, as well as meditation mentoring. For my wife, that's one-on-ones. She also has the book club, so if you want to get involved with her sister circle for the Remember Who the F You Are book club, hit her up about that. What else?
And we got our mentorship coming up soon, too. We'll start placing like little videos in between the podcast to remind y'all to just check out our mentorship.
Yeah, virtual mentorship that you can join from wherever you at in the world, full of information, community, connectivity. So make sure y'all look out for that. And as always, y'all, please subscribe if you vibing with what we doing. Hit that notification bell so you get notified for everything, because the algorithm be algorithming, right? Like, comment, hype this video. If you don't know what hype is, when you see the comments, you just slide the thing over and it's going to say hype. You hit it, it's going to give us some balloons and points. That helps the algorithm as well. Make sure you share these, clip them up, do your own reactions to our reactions. Just hold us down so we can continue to hold y'all down.
Bye.
Love. My nigga, everything is love, but that on anything I love. Yeah.
Peace, beloved.